Hey everyone, I'm Ann Dale. We're here at my sewing room in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Welcome to our 9th Kimberbell Digital Dealer Exclusive for 2024, launched 2024. So this time around, we're going to make something called the Fab-Boo-Lous canvas backpack. We're using Kimberbell Black, some of the gorgeous glitter, some embroidery. I'll let you see the project. This one here, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Cute as can be. Candy bag or your school backpack for that month. The backpack pulls up and there's quite a lengthy amount of straps there to get that up on your back. Let's see. So, or a mighty large handbag. So this is what we're focusing on this month. I'll walk you through my version because, of course, when you're participating, you get a full set of Kimberbell instructions, but this is some of my variations. This one here, the hoop size was 6 by 10. So the size that I'm going to feature in the video today will be in the 5 by 7 hoop. So those of you who might not have a machine that can accommodate a 6 by 10 hoop, we're going to use a 5 by 7. So let's go take a look at the supply list, shall we? Alrighty, so here's the Fab-Boo-Lous backpack with our 6 by 10 embroidery area. You see that there's some black prints, some orange prints, some black glitter. They might not show on camera quite as sparkly as they do in person. And a little bit of copper. So let's put that to the side. That's our finished version. So there is, first and foremost, the backpack blank. Here we go. You'll be able to find that in our supply list and in our links below the video. We always need a little bit of Kimberbell tape, or a lot depending on the project. Always got my handy dandy Kimberbell Tool Set at the ready. Some things you might find helpful this time: water soluble marker, air erase marker, your preference. Sometimes, okay, just about always, I have a stiletto at the ready. Then we'll have that lovely assortment of fabric that we just seen. The project as shown shows us using 2 different blacks, 3 different oranges, and then there is a third fabric, which is the pumpkin stem. In this version, I'm actually going to use a different piece of glitter for my pumpkin stem. Then I've got my copper bats and my black bat. Now, it all comes in a lovely tube this way here, all our different colors. The pattern itself only calls for black and copper. I just happen to want to add in a little bit of the brown. So that's my version of today's project. Nothing major, just a minor change. And then you'll need a couple threads that match. This, of course, is black. This one, color number 1115, I find actually is going to work really nicely with this version. I'm going to just take the protective plastic off that. It's not necessary at the moment. But you can see if you lay this thread over the glitter, it's almost impossible to see. And if that's what you're looking for, I would recommend this color for that particular vinyl. If you'd like to see it, you could stitch it out in the black. The fabric portion here, the orange and the blacks, are all stitched according to instruction in black, and that's okay. If you wanted to switch, this would look nice over the pumpkin, but realistically, a good chunk of the design is stitched out in black. One other little product I speak about in this project is some Fray Check. This is my favorite, but make sure you keep it away from some of your other small bottle products. I find they're all about this size. They all seem to have a blue lid, so keep that separate. Then the stabilizer for this product, Kimberbell recommends a wash away sticky bag. So that's what I have for you here. But what I can tell you is it doesn't necessarily need to be a wash away. Show you the inside here. I have yet to wash this away. But honestly, the way that this project is, and that always lives inside, you could easily have a cutaway if that's what you have at home. The sticky back is nice for placement today. So maybe you have a sticky back cutaway, maybe you have a sticky back tearaway, or the sticky back wash away. If this might be your first time using a sticky back, let's talk about hooping that. There are other versions out there on the internet. I've seen them, other suggestions, but typically center my paperback stabilizer paper side up and put my hoop in. If it doesn't go in quickly and easily, you may need to open the hoop a little more. This one did go in without too much work, just positioning the hoop down. So it's all the way in. Then I will hand tighten my hoop. Sometimes creasing your stabilizer over here just helps the hoop to settle, because the paper seems to make the stabilizer a little springy and it wants to keep jumping back up and kind of unhooping itself. Not a big deal, but it can be frustrating for some. So no matter what sticky back stabilizer you use, we now need to remove the paper. Well, there comes my handy dandy stiletto. So drag it through just with enough strength to split the paper, but not the stabilizer. Especially important in a tearaway, because the point on the stiletto will actually cut through the stabilizer. Then I tear from the middle out to the edge of the hoop. Just to expose all the stabilizers. These here and here, I know they're not in the embroidery area, just from experience, but if it makes you happy to get those pieces out, do go ahead. There we go. So now we have this nicely exposed. All right, so that's about it for the supplies. If I happen to miss any, we'll catch you up in a minute with them all. And I will meet you over at the embroidery machine. Got our design loaded for today. I'm going to use a black pre-wound bobbin for my lovely Brother Luminaire here. The Wonderfill pre-wounds are perfect. Love using them. They just make the day simpler. First color I'm going to put in the machine today is black. And we're going to load the first design, which is actually a crosshair pattern. And I would recommend loading it separately. So, almost there. Embroidery foot, black thread, top and bottom. And our design, which is a simple crosshair. but it's very important to do. So for any of you that have purchased this pattern, that cross here would help in so many projects down the road. Now, what we're going to do is hoop. Okay. There's a little bit of prep work to be done, so let's head back to the cutting table and we'll get those in place. We have our Kimberbell blank. What does blank mean? Well, realistically, what we have here is a not finished backpack. So it has the casings in it, it has the strings in it. However, it's not sewn together on the sides. That's all that blank means. Back in the day, we used to buy our things and then we would unpick them so that they were open and flat like this one. This is just a smarter way to go. So I'm going to grab myself a ruler and my water-soluble pen. And the measurements for the 5x7 design, which I'm using today, is an 8.5-inch mark from the top of the bag down the side here. Just going to put that on the front of the bag on each side. So if you like to take it and press it beforehand, you can. I'm not overly concerned about it. And an 8.5-inch mark here. It's a different measurement for the other design, the 6x10. All right, so we're going to fold this down using those marks. Put the rest of the bag out of the way. And sometimes the mark might be helpful for me for just a shift. Pin on that mark. Fold. There. Just going to give that a bit of a finger press all the way across. Then we're going to fold in half. Okay. What that's going to do is help us locate the center here. Try a little bit of finger pressing to your friend. And I'm going to bring that to over. I have just a starter tail there. I don't really need here. Don't want it to influence anyone. Anyway, so there's that crosshair we just stitched. And I'll lay the hoop out in front of me in the same fashion that is going to go into the machine. And then I've got the folds for my bag. I'm going to take this and sliding it up here. Yeah, then I do want to see, but I don't want to block your view. So there we go. That corner just nicely here. Give that a finger press, which makes it adhere to the sticky. Then we're going to open this up all the way across there and all the way up, pressing from the middle out as I find is best. And all that exposed sticky is there. Okay, then now I have the top of the bag here, the bottom of the bag here, so the design will go in upright here. So this slides into the machine that way. The big long bit down here, if you find that's going to be in your way, cumbersome or bothersome while you're working, you can roll that up and put a couple pins or clips just to hold it, stop it maybe from dragging. The hoop is under here, so I'm not pinning anywhere near or into the hoop. That won't be necessary. Just going to manage all that silk. And I will head back to our machine. Just going to load the hook in. Just manage that carefully up there. Lift up the extra bit of side there. Make sure the strings are truly out of the way. Now, in some cases, adding a basting box in can be quite helpful for some projects. Just know that if you add that in, and I'm going to add one in, and I'm just going to stitch them out, it stops everything from loading while we're trying to get our design in and stitched. Do keep your fingers well away from wherever we're stitching. This is a lot bigger than the hoop, so there's not many places here to tape like we normally do. So what this does will prevent this from pulling back or loosening and puckering under the design. But if you think you will have trouble with keeping on top of the color numbers, I go back in and delete them. So you just go back to where you added it and remove it. So this way, your color numbers now coincide with the instructions, because when it says put in color 2, it's actually color 3 because you added the base box. That can be quite confusing. So I added this in on my embroidery arm, stitched it out, and then removed it. And they're just bigger than your design. Different brands have what's called that hoop based, which just goes all the way around the perimeter. Other machines might have hoop based and motif based, which this machine does. It has a motif based. So this is just mildly bigger than the design we're about to work on. But if you get confused by numbers and things easily, or you don't want to take the risk, I've removed it from the overall design now, so that color number 1 for me is the first detail, and it's black. Okay, color step number 2 is the placement line. Will show us where the little pumpkin stem is going to live. In my larger project to run through previously, it was a little bit of a brown piece of fabric. This time I am going to use the brown glitter, just for fun and because I can. All right, so I'm just going to make sure that that's placed over that. And you want to tape it in place so it doesn't jump and move when it's being stitched. Always a wise idea to keep your fingers out of the hoop while it's stitching. There we go. That should hold it nicely. And the color step number 3 is black, and I'm going to carry on with that. Okay, so we have that color step number 3 is done. Just going to slip in here, remove the tape. brought my Kimberbell scissors. Could use the applique scissors, but there's quite a few little curvy bits here, and the vinyl is easily cut with these little curved scissors, and I quite like them. I'm going to release my hoop. And whatever you cut now, that is your final line, so keep that in mind. Consistency is the key, so if you've decided to clip 1/8 of an inch away, keep that consistent. And if it isn't perfect, well, who is? Carry on anyway. There we go. You can see the little vine twirl from earlier is showing through there. Going to put that back on the arm. Color step number 4 is a placement line, and also stitched in black. Alrighty, so now we'll pick one of our black fabrics to go over that, or maybe you might pick the black glitter to go over that. I'm going to actually use this black fabric, so I just want to center that over the bee, making sure to clearly cover all sides. A little bit of tape to keep it from shifting while stitching. Color step number 5 is black. Okay, something to take note of is this is a raw edge applique. Going to remove the tape. And then we're going to trim the bee. Alrighty, so very carefully trimmed, being sure not to accidentally trim into the bag. Good news is if it's a little uneven, you're not happy, at least get back in there. Whatever scissors work for you, well, those are the ones I recommend for you. And I like different size ones for different areas. There we go. Blows our hoop back on the machine. And color step number 6 will be one of the O's. Also in the one thing about trimming where I'm trimming ran out. I tend to knock the thread out of the needle, but I want to keep it on camera for you. We'll create our other black fabric centered over placement line. A little bit of tape. Color step 7, black. Okay, just like the V. Trim off the excess fabric. Okay, color step number 8. It's kind of just a sketch over. Bit of an embellishment stitch. All right, so now on to color step number 9, and that's going to be a placement stitch for pumpkin and also in black. Okay, so we have that placement line. Now select the orange that you want in that general area. Center it nicely. Tape it down to prevent shifting. So just like the B and the O. Okay, so the rest of the pumpkin is a lather, rinse, repeat. Stay tuned for the magic of television. All right, we've done our lather, rinse, repeat. We've got pumpkin in place. We're now on color step number 15, which is the placement for the face and in black. All right, color step number 16. We've done our placement with color step 15 in black. Then we need a piece of our black glitter. Make sure you remove the protective film. We don't want to keep that in there. And we'll just center this over our placement lines. Tape it in place so it doesn't wiggle. Alrighty, so our back down line has been stitched. I can probably see the stitching better in person than you can on camera. Just going to trim that out. Okay, trimmed away all the excess fabric. And color step 17 is another decorative sketchy line around the pumpkin. Color step 18, placement lines for the bats in black. Color step 19, black, tack down. So we could have put both these in at the beginning, but I chose to stop the machine mid-step for these bats. Next color is for the copper. So you might want to switch out now. All right, so we have two little copper bats here. Tape on that piece. I can put that one up there. The tape up there. Okay, so that completes our embroidery, but let's just get the trimming and tidying done. Okay, so most of our trimming here is done. Might have a little bit here and there that you might want to tidy, trim, take away, get rid of all the little fuzzy bits. But just remember, on a raw edge applique like this is going to continue to fray. Meet me at the other table. Alrighty, so stitching is done. Move those little pins there. You want to remove the basting stitches. Okay, so with the basting stitch, I like to kind of grab my embroidery from the bottom here like this, pulling back as much of it as I can. I have my beautiful French European scissors here. So sharp. Just gonna lock this design out. If this is wash away or even cut away, this is, if it was a tear away, do something similar and then begin tearing towards the design. That's usually pretty handy. There we go. If there's any little its and bits and trimming you might want to do, you can. Once we're finished, if you'd like to take some Fray Check and put it on the edges of all the raw edge applique to stop it from fraying, you can. But of course, this is a kind of a casual Halloween thing. That might be fine. So you could rinse this now. That's what the directions say. Or you can rinse it later, or whatever makes you happy. All right. So we do have, I left the cords in the one side. And what we want to do is determine which cord is which cord here. So this little short one here goes to this long one over here. We're going to take that and feed it through over there. And then we're going to take this long one with this short one, and we're going to thread it back out so that one cord goes all the way around this way, and the other cord's going to go all the way through this way. So the tails for the same cord are outside. And what happens then is when it's all back together and we pull, we'll get that drawstring effect. So for eons, people have been using safety pins and the like to take this through. I have this lovely little thing. It's a bodkin. It's a bit different than some. What we're going to do is grab that end, and it goes through that hole here. And then you slide it down so it pinches nice and tightly in there. It won't come undone. And unlike a safety pin, it won't open up and poke you. So I'm going to head over to this side. You just push the bodkin through the casing little by little. That comes at the other end. It's pulls. Just going to determine the two ends that belong to each other. Now that they're together, just gonna loosely tie them together. Helps keep track of them for later. Then the other cord that we have, its end is here. We want to go through that way. Go, bodkin. You'll find that in the links. Just gonna put those two tails together, same string. And then just to be sure that I didn't make an error, I would give it a little twist here, twist and pull, flatten it back out for the next step. But just to be sure before you move too much further along through the project, make sure that the cords are in there correctly. Okay, so that now we've got these in, we've tested them, and we have what we need. we're going to take the bag, fold it right sides together, keeping these tails out to the side. I'm going to just undo that little knot I put in there earlier. Just going to make sure that the ends of that string match up. And the easiest thing to do here, I'm going to tuck the strings in to the side. Just gonna push them in there. I'm gonna hang on to the tails. Now, Kimberbell instructions. I want to match the sides of this bag together. So I'm just going to start at the top here. There's a little turn back hem here. I'm going to match the tops together. And that turned back hem. And then I'm just going to pin there. And I'm going to make sure that the sides are flat. And I'm just going to put a crease here in the bottom. Now the Kimberbell directions have you put a mark a ½ inch up, and the tails are up, tucked into the seam, a ½ inch up from the bottom. And by all means, you could mark that ½ inch. You could take these tails. What you want to do is move them to the bottom here. And they have them a ½ inch up. I personally pushed them all the way to the bottom when I sewed them in. And I'm going to do the same again here. I'm going to leave the fuzzy raveled ends out. For the moment, I'm going to put a pin just above there. And I'm going to sneak my hand into the bag in whatever way I can. And I'm just going to pull those right in, and I'm going to keep them flat. I can feel that they're flat in there. And I can just pin through them to keep them in place. I always pin with my pins to the outside. That way I can sew from this direction, or I can sew from this direction, and I'll know right where my pins are. So those are down inside here, nice and flat. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to match the top of the bag. And then that was sort of folded back hems there. I'm just going to pin in there pretty close, just so I can determine where the actual bottom is. So the top is pinned. It's going to make this flat all the way to the bottom. I'm going to just put that little finger press in there. And I'm going to take the cord. I'm going to push it inside of here. To undo that knot I created to keep them together earlier. Going to push these all the way to the bottom, to the finger press I created earlier. Going to bring them right down to there. This might be easier for some of you to see and do this way. I'm going to put the squishy flat ends in the same distance as I had them on the other side. And then I'm going to pin just to hold them where I want them. That should keep them from pushing and pulling out. Yeah. Checking. Yeah. Making sure the side is flat. Make sure that I have the ends of the cord equal distance each side. Put a couple more pins down the side if you like. I'm just gonna flip it over, check this side. Maybe put a couple more pins in to hold that together. So now I have both sides pinned. If you choose to pull these through a little more and have something hanging out there on the end, just make sure it's the same on both sides, okay? So if you want a 1/2 inch sticking out, go ahead. Just make both sides the same. You can make it even on the end like I did previously. Just make them the same. And you can put them up a 1/2 inch on the end, like Kimberbell's instructions had you mark for. Or I've pushed mine right down to the bottom here, where the bottom of the bag is. Alrighty, here we go. Our next step is to sew this together. Now, just be careful because you're not going to go all the way up this side, because if you did, you would sew the cords down. So you're going to choose how far up you go. You can be 1 inch, 2 inches from the top here. The diagram seems to indicate that you sew all the way to the top. However, if you do sew all the way to the top, you wouldn't be able to operate these cords. So in this bag, I sewed within 1/4 inch of the bottom of the casing, which still gives me room to move for the pull, because you see the cords have to move freely there. Okay. So determine how far up you're going to go. Maybe in this one, let's measure down from the top 2 inches. And I'm going to put that pin in there. And oftentimes I'm going to swap that out to a red one. That reminds me that I want to stop there. Okay. 2 inches from the top. Not flip over. I'm going to measure down 2 inches from the top. Put that pin there. Switch to a red one to remind myself it's a stop. There we go. All right. Meet you back at the sewing machine. Okay, so here we are. Got my pin at that 2 inch from the top mark. Things are a little tricky here. I'm going to start there, but I can't actually complete a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm just going to start on the edge there. And I'm going to just stitch forward, and then I'm going to do it. that's 18. So just gonna stitch along the edge of that fold, aiming for down here, or roughly 1/4 inch to 3/8 seam allowance, whatever you pick. Just be consistent. I'm actually just running the edge of the foot along the edge of the bag. Now here we are coming to the bottom, and remember I finished my bottom slightly different than Kimberbell's. Hers had the cord 1/2 inch up. I'm just going to leave mine in the bottom here, and I'm going to sew all the way to the bottom. And now I'm sewing my bag in black so you can see this. I just hit the edge of the bag there, and now I'm going to reverse a little bit to the right, and then I'm going to come straight back down. And then I'm going to reverse back up a little bit, just in the seam allowance here. And I'll give you a close-up of this. I learned this a very long time ago. And it saved me many bags. So what I did here, using my seam allowance, I came all the way to the end of the bag. Then I did a reverse up over the ends of the cording, and I came back down and zigzagged back and forth and made my way out to the edge of the bag. What that does is it offers a strength like no other. If the original seam tore open, there are all of these other stitches that won't let these cords pull through. And given how, you know, kids aren't careful, they just gonna toss that backpack on, toss back and forth, throw it on the ground, pick it up, all using the strings. These will never pull out. They could put 50 pounds of candy in here and they won't be able to pull it out. So I'm going to do the same on the other side, starting at roughly that 2-inch mark up there. Not quite a true 1/4 inch, and I'm just going to do a typical back and forth up there. You can also go in and put in a bar tack, which could be helpful. So I again did that reverse back and forth, but not one on top of each other. People think that adds strength. It doesn't. It actually weakens the fibers when you stitch in one place over and over again. So these back and forths aren't on top of each other. They're just next to each other. And these will never tear out. Now up here, if you're worried about this here, you could actually put a little bar tack in here, a secondary stitch in there. This would be much easier to stitch up if it came undone, so I'm not too worried about it. I've got enough slack up here and a little bit of slide that there's room for the strings to move back and forth. So I think we've done a good day's work. Meet me at the other table. Hi, here we are. This, I hope that you appreciate the bonus lesson and that it serves you well. So now to turn this, I usually have a funky turning way, and you'll find that in some of our other videos. But this one, if you want a nicely turned out bottom, you just pull on the cords and it pulls the whole corner right out. No special trick required, just pull on those and you'll have a very nice bottom there. Walk that out here. Might be a time now to take it to the iron and give that a little press. Take it to the wash machine and take the wash away stabilizer out, or soak it in a tub and let it dry. There we go. our 5x7 boo, and our 6x10 boo. Give you kind of some size reference there so you can see the two different designs together. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Well, there you go. We have our fabulous boo bag. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. 6x10, 5x7. Oops, oops. There we go. Both sizes are included with this month's design. So again, this is Digital Dealer Exclusives 2024 release. I'm Ann Dale here at my sewing room in lovely Alberta, Canada. You can find us on all our socials at mysewingroom.ca. It could be .ca or .ca. Do join us. Do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It gives us the encouragement we need to continue making great videos for you. And do say hi when you're in our YouTube, or join us on Facebook. We go live most days at 4:15. And if you like this program and this is the first one you've seen, well, we have several more before this, and we still have 3 more after. So we have the 12 months for Digital Dealer Exclusive 2024 and a bonus design. What's the Buzz key fob? It's adorable. If we have any of the fob kits left, that's also a bonus for joining for the whole year. So you can retroactively join for the whole year. Just send us a note and we'd be happy to help you. If you have any questions about any of our education, you may comment on our YouTube channel right under the video, or you might want to email us at education@mysewingroom.ca. We do love to help you, so do let us help you get creative. We'll see you soon.